because we will send over the follow-up recording afterwards. So if any of there's a chap on the chat just then said they might have to leave early, but don't worry, because yeah, this gets recorded, and everyone that's registered, whether you attend or not, you will get the follow-up. But yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today on the final monthly customer training webinar of 2020, which I think we can all agree has been a pretty predictable and run-of-the-mill year, really, hasn't it, with not much going on. And so to cap off this really average year, I thought I'd put together a collection of tips and tricks and best practice ideas for all aspects of the Deputy platform. In fact, I've got more than 30 different hints and did you knows that I'm going to run through live on the platform today, which will give you plenty of ideas as to how you can incorporate some of them into your own setups and your own businesses. Because there's really is a wealth of seemingly small or tucked away features in Deputy that can offer a ton of value if you know where to find them. And you may find that you even end up using them in a really unique way and a really creative way. So I really do welcome any and all feedback after this webinar, you know, how you get on with implementing these into your own businesses. All right, let's have a little run through of the agenda today. So press record, I've done that. We're off and running, tick that box. Then I shall introduce you to who's on this webinar today. So the hosts, so it's not just me today, I have another special guest helping me out with the questions. I'll show you quickly how you can use the Q&A box as part of Zoom. And then we'll run through the main content. So I've got tips and tricks on all of those different aspects of the system there. And of course, as always, at the end, I've got some bonus bites, some special Christmas extras. So stay to the end because there's a few extra things I want to show you as well. And then there'll be Q&A at the end as well. So John, who's joining me today, is going to help me with the Q&A, but we'll be able to cover some further ones at the end. So John, I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleague with me today as a Senior Marketing Manager for Deputy. So he's part of the Global Marketing Programs team, and he runs all manner of campaigns to ensure that you guys get a ton of value from Deputy, you know, not just from the product, but industry insight and roundtables. So we're providing, you know, really specific insight into workforce management in a variety of industries, including, and John didn't ask me to say this, the future of shift work, which you can still access on the Deputy website. And we will link to that and loads of other extra things on the back of the webinar as well. And then you've got me, as always. So it's Gary Harper here, Technical Learning Designer, and my sole role is to make sure that I design learning content for the technical stuff that you guys can squeeze the most value out of from as possible. How do you ask your questions? All right, very quickly, let's get this boring stuff out of the way and we'll crack on. Use the Q&A box, please, because I know there's a little chat box which I mentioned at the beginning, but please, for your actual questions about the content and what we're going to run through today, please do use the Q&A box, which you can find there at the bottom of your Zoom window. John will be tapping away to answer as much as he can throughout, and anything that we can't cover there and then, I'll try and help at the end as well. And if there's questions that I can't answer today for whatever reason, time or otherwise, we'll answer them separately afterwards, so don't worry. All right, let's move to the main stuff. Now, I'm going to go from left to right on the tabs here. Let's start on Newsfeed. Now, you know that you can create posts and you can create messages to individuals or locations. But sometimes people ask, how can I create a message to specific people that aren't necessarily all in one location? Well, there's a few different ways you can do that really, but I suppose the most straightforward way would be to create an actual location. You know, it doesn't have to be something that you use for scheduling. You could add a location and call it the lads or whatever. You know, you could call it the group of people that you specifically want to message. That was a terrible example, but you know what I mean. And then that would appear as a location that you could then create a post for. It would show here in bold, and then you know only those specific people are part of that message. So like I say, I mean, that is one way of doing it, but there is, I think, a cooler way to do it, which I'll show you when we get to the People tab. Something else to be mindful on the newsfeed page is important posts. So sometimes our customers will say to me, oh, we lose in the thread, it's hard to find ones where, I'm looking for who has and hasn't confirmed a certain message. If you click on important posts here, it just only shows the ones that require confirmation. So you don't have to, scroll around too much. So important posts, tap that. The important posts means ones that have required confirmation. All right, number 3, message all on shift. This is a really good one. So you can see here on the right-hand side, you've got the current status of your staff who are either scheduled or currently working. So you can see it's split by who's running late, who's currently on shift, on a break, or scheduled later that day. And you can see these little chat bubbles next to each section, which means you can message all of these people collectively. So you might want to use these. Some examples might be, everyone on shift. Big boss man arriving in 10, best behavior, something like that. You might want to message everybody who's on a break, don't forget to clock off your break. Everybody who's scheduled later to work that day, perhaps something like don't forget to bring your masks, something like that. And then, you might want to message everybody who's running late to say, whatever you need to send those specific groups. I think that's really handy and kind of hidden there a little bit. So I'm sure, we have a customer that loves using this messaging system for specific groups at specific, who are in, particular parts of the business at that time of day. So for example, relevant updates on certain events that are happening on the premises. And we've even got another customer actually who uses this for a really quick roll call for when a fire alarm goes off. So on shift, everybody's in the building. You can see exactly how many people are and who they are as well. So it can be really handy. And this section here appears on the newsfeed, tasks, locations, and people tabs. So you can see it on the right-hand side here for all 4 of those tabs. So it is accessible to access levels that can see all of these tabs. So supervisor, location manager, system admin as well. All right, that's enough on the news feed. Let's go to tasks. All right, we all know what tasks are. You can set somebody, an individual or a group of people, a list of to-dos that they can tick off throughout the day. Yeah, fine. But one thing I thought about the other day was, why not make a task group? So this is where you have a list of tasks, which when you assign it to an area. So everybody who's scheduled on that day in this area will have access to be able to tick a task. Now that's nothing particularly new, but you can use it in a kind of cool way just to make sure that everybody who's working that day has done a certain thing. Because what you can do, so for example, let's say actually I want to assign, I'm going to say collected new uniform. All right, I'm going to assign this to everybody who's going to be working in the bar later. I can see there's quite a few people working in the bar tonight. And in fact, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste the group name to the name of that one task. And then can you see this little drop down box here? If you tap that, you can see that there's an option to switch this on multiple times. So this means that multiple people can tick the same task. And the good thing about that is when you have that assigned and people start ticking it, you'll be able to track who's ticked it and when. So what I'll do actually is, let's just go over to my mobile phone here. I should have that as an assigned task for later. This is when the live demo doesn't do what you're expecting. I wonder if okay, so what it would show is the new, maybe I didn't publish it or something, but the new task group here, They tap on it, they click, that they've done it, and then it shows here as who ticked it, and then the date that they ticked it as well. So you can keep like a track of who has done the thing that you are requiring them to do throughout the day. I think that's pretty handy when it works and my phone doesn't muck up. All right. Locations. Let's move on. Next tab. Right, there's a few to do here. Let's start with the settings on the locations page. You might wonder what unique code means here and why we have it. So the unique code, I think, and why I think it's important that you do fill something appropriate in here, because this will be used as an abbreviation in two really key other parts of the platform. So you can use up to 6 characters here. It should really be something that's immediately familiar and reflects the name of the location. And the reason it exists is because, say you're on the schedule page and you're on the employee view, and say you're on all locations, employee view. When it comes to scheduling somebody in, when you click here, can you see in brackets the unique code is used as the location name in front of all of the areas. And it's just a space saving thing, but you can imagine that if you hadn't chosen your own specific one that makes sense to you, then this will either be the first few characters, which I think is chosen by default of the location name, or it could even be the postcode or something like that. And it might just be like, well, what does that even mean? So that's one place where it's reflected. The other place is on the timesheets approval page. So you can see here in area of work, what's in brackets is the abbreviation. It's the unique code of that location. And the reason we use it is because you could have a location name that's like, 50 characters long or something, and it's just a space thing. It wouldn't perhaps necessarily all show here. Okay, so make sure your unique codes are up to date and make sense for everybody, because otherwise Deputy pre-fills it with something that may not be useful. Double click pin to move. Right, so sometimes you'll put in your specific address. If you live somewhere kind of rural, or the postcode and the address is maybe a little bit further down the road from where the pin is, because really we're just relying on Google Maps here to tell us where this pin should be. This is important if you use remote clocking in and out and you have a specific perimeter distance set up around the pin that will potentially send a notification to a manager should someone clock in or out outside of that. So you want to make sure that this is exactly where people are going to be going. So if it is, you type in the full address and you press enter and the pin moves, yeah, it will be close enough, but maybe it's on the other side of the road or something. So just to change where the pin is, just move the map around, click and drag and scroll, and double click to put the pin somewhere else. Now you'll notice that the address then pre-fills to something that's incomplete or maybe a bit strange. Don't worry at all. If it's more important that the pin is respected, because this is where the clock-in information is compared against, then you can ignore what this says. Okay, this is the important bit for clocking in and out. Also, sometimes if you enter an address, just make sure if the pin doesn't move, just press enter in this box and it will move to this specific address that you've typed. Okay. And did you know areas can now also have their own addresses? So you'll notice if you go to add a new area, that in the edit screen you can actually add a specific address just for that area. So this is really useful if you use your location as maybe a group header that your employees then can clock in and out of various different areas. So particularly useful for service events, construction, domiciliary care potentially as well, where people are going to multiple addresses but work for one main location. So the clocking in and out information will be compared against the area address if you use that. All right. Let's go have a look at some of these integrations. So the integrations are the special extra notifications and settings that you can enable. And I'm just going to run through a couple that I think are pretty useful, maybe not so known. The first is mandatory break. Quite often I'll get asked about being able to set a mandatory break. So there might be a regulation where you have staff that must take a break after, say, 4 hours of work or whatever it might be. You can indeed, set up a schedule template that has preset break times. But if you don't necessarily want to do that and they're always unpaid breaks or indeed they're always paid breaks actually, then activate this and then you can choose the amount of time after a shift start time where the employee or the manager or both of you, makes sense for the employee I guess, gets a notification on the smartphone to say, make sure that you take your break after this amount of time. So you can see it's got some default ones, 4.5 hours and 5 hours, but if you wanted it to be 4 hours or something, it has to be done in a certain amount of minutes, so it'll be 240, I think that's right, 40 minutes. So 4 hours after the shift start time, the employee gets a message on their smartphone to say, make sure you take a break. So that one can be pretty useful. Next one. Let's go back to the menu. Press cancel here to go back. Don't worry, that doesn't. If you've saved, I should mention actually, if you've saved one and you press cancel, it doesn't cancel that. It goes back. It should say back. I'm going to mention that to the product team. Best way to find the ones in here is to search what you're looking for. Use the search box. So the one I want to show you now is expiring training. So if you have a training tag that has an end date to it, an expiry date, why not remind the employee themselves or the person that created the tag, or even both of you, that that specific training module, or maybe it's all of them, let's just say, for example, it's first aid, that they get a message to say 90 days before it's due to expire, you might want to set up, and arrange for the for retraining. Really handy one. And I'm going to show you another way that you can find this information out as well shortly. New unavailability, send notification. Yes, so the last one I want to show you on these, let's go back to the search box. You may or may not know that yourself and employees can indeed create unavailability in the platform. So they can either in the smartphone or the manager on the apps select days or even hours in a day where someone is requesting not to be scheduled with a reason. Now, if you want your staff to be able to do this, but you want to be alerted that it's been submitted, then you can indeed switch that on. So if we search for unavailability, here we go. New unavailability, send a notification. Simple as that. So one of your staff has created, they've said like, I want this weekend off, or they've blocked out that weekend, not necessarily annual leave. This is different. It doesn't require approval. Therefore, if you need to know about it in advance and not just discover it on the schedule randomly, then switch this on and press save. All right, moving swiftly on. How are we for time? 20 past, all good. Right, people tab. Oh, there's some good ones I'm going to show you on here. Here we go. Right, the people tab looks pretty simple. You've got your staff and then you've got your details here. You can see maybe a lot more on mine here than maybe yours currently shows, and that's because I've ticked a lot of boxes on my also show. So you can indeed, choose the ones that you specifically want to see at that particular time. It might be super basic. It might be, a bit of everything. You can filter as well. So if you're searching for specific stuff, you can filter by certain things quickly here. Now, I've only got 11 people on my demo account, but if you've got, more than 50, or not even that, more than 20, it's going to be, a little tough to scroll around and find the right person to click on. Of course, yes, you can search by their name, but why not make the search quicker to start with by filtering by certain things? So you can filter by Now, training expiry. Remember, I just mentioned how you can switch that on. Well, why not quickly check? Maybe once a week you could come in here and check and say, right, who's got training that expires in the next 30 days? There we go. Greg. His first aid expires in the next 30 days. Perfect, straight away. So if we haven't got that other integration switched on, then we can send Craig a message right now and let him know. You can filter by loads of other useful things here. Stress profiles. You can filter by who hasn't accepted their deputy invitation yet. That's a useful one. So you might have bulk invited everybody onto the platform, and there's still a couple of people who are you're still waiting on. So you can filter, who are we waiting on here? And if anybody shows here, you can resend the invitation to those specific people. Training, yes. So why not say you have an emergency and you quickly need to know who in the building, who's got first aid training, right? Well, we're going to filter training, let's type it in, first aid, boom. This will then only show you people that have first aid as a training tag. Let's have a look. What's next? Archived. Yeah, sometimes people say, oh, I can't find so-and-so. They're just not showing anywhere in the system. Have you archived them, perhaps? So remember here, my staff list here is only 11 because I'm showing who's currently live and active on the system, and they're therefore marked as employed. You can just see your archived staff, or you can see absolutely everybody altogether as well. Now the archived staff, once they're showing here, you can filter and search for various things on them, just like you can with your employed staff as well. Searching, other ways. So maybe you do a filter first, but what about if you need to just quickly find someone? Now you can, when you type someone's name in here, not only is it searching by their name, it's also searching phone number and email address. So if you know, I don't know how useful this is, but start to type a phone number here, that's going to find someone by that, and also their email address. Now, why might that be useful? Well, you may have a large pool of staff that use a hotmail.com email. And hotmail.com is notorious for having emails that go to the junk folder. So there's countless times where people have contacted us and said, oh, my staff member's just not getting the invite. I don't know what's going wrong. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they have a hotmail.com address and it's going to the junk folder. So what you could do here is actually search by Hotmail, and anybody that had a Hotmail email address would then show here. And then you could do a bulk message to those people to say, please, and the message will go to their smartphone app, don't worry, not to their Hotmail. This is not counterintuitive. Please update your email addresses to Outlook or something like that, or something else, so that we're making sure that you're getting the invites and the messages. I'm just thinking then, well, if they haven't accepted their invite to deputy, then they wouldn't get that message. Good point. But at least you'd have the list of people there that you could collectively contact. So you would know who the offenders are. Anyway, so that could be a reason why you might want to search by email as well. You remember when I was on the newsfeed and I said, oh, if you want to do a group message to people, you could create a whole new location. That might be a bit, you might think, oh, that's a bit overkill. I don't want to create a location just to send a group message. So what you can do on the people tab is actually create a tag. So we can do a bulk action here. So maybe first I'll filter by, let's say I want everybody in the events team who is a supervisor. Okay, there's no one. Everybody in the events team who's a location manager. I want to send those people a group message, but I don't want to have to filter by this every time. Now, I mean, that doesn't take too long, does it? I mean, you tick everybody here, you tick this box, it collectively selects everybody, and then you do a bulk action, send message. But if you wanted to do this quickly every time, what you could do is filter by a certain tag. So what we could do is actually bulk add a training tag to these people and say, whatever they are, add that to their list, and then you can filter on that training next time. I just have to refresh my screen for that to show. Filter on them and then send those people a message. So you can think of like loads of different sort of creative ways that you could set attributes to certain people so that you can affect them in a bulk way. So maybe not just for sending messages, but once you've added a tag, a training tag, doesn't have to be anything to do with training. It's literally an attribute that you title yourself. You can then perform a bulk action for those people. Add a leave type to those people, send a message, I mentioned that one, change their pay rates, whatever it might be. So yeah, just something to think about there, the way that you can use those differently. All right, where are we? Send login details. Yes, did you know that if someone is constantly phoning up and saying, oh boss, I can't log in, I forgot my password, whatever it might be, and you're saying, oh, you'll have to speak to deputy, I don't know what to do. No, let me stop you there. You can help them yourselves by going into their profile and click send login details right at the top here. That will just send them a password reset request email straight to them so that they can sort themselves out. There's something that's new on this page that you may have not spotted yet. Add people, add import multiple people. If you are adding new people to your team, why not use the new invite link and allow them to proactively do it themselves? So you can copy this link and paste it in like a WhatsApp group or a group work email or something. Everybody gets that link, they click on it individually, and they are invited onto the Deputy platform where they fill in their own details, name and email, for example. And then you get once they say accept, you get the request where you can then say which location and which access level do you want to send them. So it takes out a bit of the legwork of having to bulk upload like a big Excel list or something like that. So yeah, you can find this on this page here. It's also on each individual's email as well, profile as well. If they haven't been invited yet, it will show up here. Okay, let's get on to the schedule page. Now, talking of training tags, you can search boxes. In this search box, this will not only look for the person's name, so yes, you can single people out if you start to type a name in here, but it will also search by other attributes like the training tags. So you need to find the legends, it will show you those people. Remember, I just added this as a training tag to those 3 people. So this will search by training tags as well. So really quick to see, you're doing a schedule, you need to know who's available or who's currently working that has this specific tag, a French speaker. I'm trying to think of like creative ways you could use this. People who've got first aid, people who've got like nice haircuts, whatever you need to filter people by, search for them in here to see them quickly. On the area view as well, let's go here. When you click someone's name, because their names are now not like directly in line with the shifts, when you click someone's name, it'll add a little drop down so that you can see their training tags. So you'll know that all of these things are searchable. And you can also see, the aspects about their totals so far. So these update obviously as you work on the schedule throughout the day. But the good thing is as well is that when you click on someone, let's find someone who does have a shift. Let's have a look, Charlie. When you click on them, all of their shifts here get highlighted straight away. So that's pretty handy. And then you can cycle through their shifts as well. If I click on if you lose it for whatever reason, you click on the little drop down, highlight shifts, and then you can cycle through them with the N key. Okay, so if I highlight them there, you can see Charlie's, and if I press N, it goes to N for next, and it cycles through them like that. Now, I've only got a few staff and only 3 people here, but when you've got more, obviously this is going to be really, really powerful and useful to very quickly, drill down to who's doing what, where. So you can cycle through the shifts like that. You can also cycle through different types of shifts at the bottom here. So you'll notice that there's a little summary of a number of each different types of shifts, and when you click on them, if you keep clicking, it will cycle between them. If there's two, or it will cycle through each one consecutively. So that can be pretty handy as well. Okay, repeat shifts for specific days. Right. Let's say I want Loretta here is working tonight, but I also want to add, actually, let's go to a blank week, so just make this a bit more relevant. Loretta works Monday to Friday. No, she works Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, for example. Now, what I can do, and the hours are the same, is rather than just like copy and paste the shift in, yes, it won't take too long in this example, but imagine you're doing it for a month, for example. We can say on the drop down here, rather than just save it and then copy and paste, on the drop down, we've got more repeat options. The bottom option is pretty new, repeat for specific days. So when I click on this, I can choose every single day, not really going to be likely. So untick that, I'm going to say it's Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. So this will repeat on these specific days that are in our current time frame. So you can see here it's between Monday to Sunday. So when you press apply, it's just going to copy and paste that shift on those specific days. Okay, I said Saturday and Sunday, I did Friday and Saturday. It doesn't matter. But for the example, you know what I mean. So if you think, you can do someone's like monthly schedule if they happen to have the same shifts really, really quickly. I find that one pretty good. Now, I'm going to pause here a little bit because I've got a sore throat from talking too much, but also you're probably sick of my voice a little bit. And I'm going to see if there's any questions I can take just to break it up a little bit. So let's have a look. Before I go silent and start scrolling through all the open questions, John, do you have any ones in particular that you'd like me to run through?
Sure, Gary. Yeah, there's been a couple that have come through. I think from the beginning, both Carl and Lizzie have been asking the newsfeed messaging that you're showing, is that available through the app as well? So can you view the newsfeed alerts on the app?
Yes. Here's my app. Here's the newsfeed. Yeah. So the newsfeed on the app is a mirror copy of what happens on the desktop version as well. Yeah. So these will come through like push notifications, just like WhatsApp, for example. Same deal. That was an easy. That's too easy. There's got to be some harder questions.
There's more coming. Don't worry. Rihanna is asking, when adding training, do you need to load proof of the training?
Hi, Rihanna. Thanks for that question. Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, you don't have to, but you absolutely can. So in someone's profile, click Edit Profile, Job Information. This is where you'll find the training tags. So you can see all these grey boxes are the different ones that I've created for this particular person. You can create new ones by clicking in an empty space and starting to type. I'm just going to type new training for now. The important thing is to press Enter to create it. And then you'll notice each of them has this little edit box down here. When you click on that, it opens up some extra features where you can indeed put the start and end date. The start date will always default to today's date, the day you're creating it. So if it needs to be retrospective, then you can indeed click on this and say, oh, actually it's from November the 5th, 2020. And you can see here, to answer your question, we have an upload button. So here you can add a document like a PDF or a JPEG, for example. That's in relation to the training. So if it is actually training, a certificate or something, yes, absolutely, you can upload it here. And this is only for the eyes of the manager. So this is not accessible by the employee themselves. Okay, let me see if I can just run through any more here. Helen, I'm not sure if that's the same Helen, is asking about shift patterns. Our shift pattern is over 6 days. It goes early, early, late, late, off, off. Is there a way of repeating this? Over 6 days, yes, but it's a kind of a workaround because you'd have to do it in a template that matches a certain number of weeks. So for 6 days, it would repeat itself again after, is it 7 weeks, I think? It would then begin again because that would be 42 days. And it has to be what I'm saying is it has to be a multiplier of 7 for you to get away with doing it as a template. So what you could have is a 4-week template and then 3 1-week templates, or a 4 and a 2 and a 1. And then that would be your block. I hope that makes sense. So you would create a template for 4 weeks, then one for 2 weeks, then one for 1 week, and then just load them one after the other, and then that's 7 weeks of a 6-day pattern. Are we able to see someone called Human Resources? Hi, Human. That's a great name. Are we able to see a split shift in the schedule? Yeah, by all means. Best way to see it is actually on a day view, because if you have it on a week view like this, just for space, it will just say 2 shifts. So if you go to day view, I was actually going to get to split shifts actually in a minute. So let's do 7. Oh no, that was a bad example. That's a very long shift of 23 hours. Whatever. There you go. So that's actually across 2 different areas, but you know that could by all means be straight after it. I've mucked it up there, but you get the idea. Yes, you can have a split shift. In fact, I'm going to cover that bit now about split shifts, because say something we get asked sometimes is, well, I have someone who works. Well, let's just do the example now. I'm going to do it on one location just because it looks a bit cleaner. I have someone that works, let's just edit this one, in the morning, let's say 9 till 12 p.m. in this area, but then they come back and they do, or they move straight away to another part of the business for that shift. Okay, so technically they're doing a split shift, but you don't necessarily want them to have to clock out here and then clock back in here. So what we have for that, so that you only have one timesheet for this whole shift, is, not bookmarks, you have in the location settings, remember when I was talking about the integrations here, we have a feature called split by a roster. Now let's search for this. If you just type in split, it'll come up. There you go. When you activate this, this makes sure that the person only needs to clock in for the first one and out for the second one, and it'll tie the 2 together into one timesheet. Actually, it will be 2 separate timesheets, but they'll be linked so that the person doesn't have to clock out of the first one and in of the second one. You know, if they're just like moving to another department, you don't want to slow things down in between. So yeah, switch that on for helping split shifts. Philip says, how do I set a new type of training tag? You can either do it in their profile. So you go, click on the person, edit profile, job information, and then start typing here to add it to an individual. But if you want to add it to multiple people, you can tick the relevant people, or if it's everybody on the page, up to 50 people, you can tick here. And then you can do it as a bulk action, add training, and you can add it here to multiple people rather than just one. Bearing in mind, you can't bulk add documents or start and end dates. So if it's more of an attribute, then this way makes sense. Can you change the anonymous attendee? Hi, anonymous. Can you change the color of the box in schedule for different job roles? Yes, Absolutely. On the locations tab, if you go to areas in the settings, click edit, and yes, you have free reign here to either use your own custom color or one of the presets here. Mylene says, hi, can you explain again the area? You'll need to elaborate on that, Mylene. What about the area?
It was when you were talking earlier about, you know, the different area allocations over and above, different colored like locations.
I'm not exactly sure what she means.
Just the tab you were on before, I think you were just explaining about the different areas that you can add in. Yeah, when you were talking on the screen.
Yeah, so the areas are the places of work or the different job roles. I mean, how you label them is completely up to you. They just sit under the location name and you assign people to them. So if it's a type of work, you put the job function here, or if it's a particular department within a location, you type the name of it there. It's really up to you. You give it a color that makes sense for you. I think even if the colors don't relate to anything in your business, it's definitely worth having different colors for each of them anyway, just because it separates it a lot clearer on the schedule page anyway. You can also get to that page I was just at if you click edit next to the areas here. Actually, that's a quicker way if you're already on the schedule page. All right, I'm going to save some of the questions for a bit later on, so I'll just crack on with what I was talking about on the schedule page here. So we've searched for things in the text box here, and we've filtered by people and training tags. I cycled through shifts, showed you how to repeat shifts on specific days. Publishing differently for different areas. All right, this can be a really useful one. Let's go to a week view. So you may well have certain shifts that require a confirmation from staff members. So maybe, you know, everybody who's a waiter, let's just create some shifts here. I'm just going to assign a couple. She's stressed, okay, doesn't matter. She'll be fine. Now, maybe you need to alert these people in a different way when it comes to publishing shifts, because the published shifts number up here is reflected on what's currently in view. So if actually I only want to publish, you know, just these two, say all of these were unpublished. In fact, that's what I'll do. Let's I'm going to remove people. So when this fills with staff, it'll ask me to republish a certain number. And we'll decide about how we can alert people. All right, so you can see here 13 shifts, but if you hide areas, this number decreases because the schedule page only gets affected, so like bulk actions, deleting, templates, publishing, all of these things are only affected by what's currently in your view. So if you want to publish in a different way to certain people like this, just hide the areas that don't make sense, or, you know, everything that you don't want to be affected, and then do your publish. So for example, I want to, what did I say, the waiting team, so let's hide everybody else. I require that they confirm that they can do the shift first before I want to send out the shifts publishing to anybody else. So click on publish here, and then when you can see it's already pre-selected just the one that's in view. And then I'm going to do it this way. So confirm 24 hours before shift starts. Now this is a setting that I created in the settings and the scheduling tab. Can you see here, requires shift confirmation? By default, it's not required, But if you want to publish with confirmation required, here are the default ones that you can choose. So I need to know 24 hours before the shift start time that those 3 people can indeed do that shift before I make any other decisions. So I can hide the irrelevant areas, publish just these ones this way, and then once they're published, I can unhide the other ones and just hide that one and publish these perhaps in just the regular way, this way. So it's quick, but you've got to know that that's the way it works, I guess, to make it quick. All right, bulk updates. Yes, all right. And I mentioned other things that you can do that affects things that are in view. Say, for example, everyone in the bar staff, I've got the start time wrong and it's supposed to be 10 a.m., right? Okay, so I don't want to affect everything. I just want to affect those ones. So I'm going to hide the other areas. And then on options up here, I'm going to do a bulk update and change the start time. And there's a few different fields that you can select to make bulk changes. I'm going to click in here and just change it to 10 a.m. And straight away, that'll just change all the start times of the unpublished shifts here. You can see they all start at 10 now. And you might think, well, that's great for the area, but what about if it was just, let's say, it's just Charlie's shifts that I wanted to affect? Good question. You change it to employee view. This way, when we search on a person, oh, not me, Charlie, only their shifts show, and then I can do a bulk update and change their start time to whatever, just for that person. It says some of them can't because they're in the past. That's fine. So there you go. So that's some useful ways you can bulk update things by individual and by groups. And what but, I hear you ask, what if I want to filter by more than that? So it's not just a person, an individual, because what if you want to change everyone's individual hours? You have to do them one by one. What about if you use a training tag? So why not use these filters first? So it's the legends that I want to affect their shifts. Now the bulk is only going to affect these guys because I filtered by the training tag. So you can see if you set all these things up with the attributes of the training tags, it's a really great way to drill down to specifics and make bulk changes a lot quicker to certain people. So for those last 2 examples, I highly recommend using employee view, okay, because that absolutely will remove everybody else out of view. It just makes it cleaner and clearer. Okay, what else have I got on this schedule page? Let's have a look. Bulk update. Oh, I'm running low on time here. I can't believe how much time I've been banging on for. So I hope you're all still here. I could literally just be talking to myself and I wouldn't know. Let's have a look. Publish different areas. Bulk, yes. Filter by area on all local. Oh, yes. Did you know? If you want, sometimes, so here's a good customer example, right? I had a customer who has a few different locations, but they haven't a couple of them have a shared area. And sometimes they want to schedule the area across different locations. So the same area might be part of 2 different locations and working, slightly different patterns, for example. But if you're on the schedule page and you are on all locations, let's go to area view, then it's very unlikely that those 2 areas are going to be next to one another. So if what you can do is filter by a name of an area. So if you make sure, this is important, make sure that you're on all locations first. Click the drop down and you can see there's a little search box up here. Now, as I start to the example I'm going to use is kitchen. So 2 of my locations on this demo account have a kitchen as an area. So if I start to type kitchen, you can see here this appears at the bottom, filter all areas with kitchen in their title. When you click on that, only those 2 areas, even though they're in different locations, are going to show. Now, kitchen is just one example, so I'm sure you can start to think how you could use this in your own setup, in your own businesses. But the good thing about this, again, is that now the numbers are reflected, even the stats panel. Now, if I click this button here, which hides and shows the stats panel, these numbers are just what's on show. So now I have a good insight into just these two kitchen areas in terms of the hours and wages and perhaps even sales percentage and budgets and things to what's currently on show. Filter by areas. There we go. One other little thing I can show you on here is you can indeed turn people's shifts into open. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, perhaps somebody has called in sick or something, then you know they're not going to be in for the rest of the week. Say, for example, let's just publish these. I'm going to make this look a little bit realistic. Just make them green. So say, for example, in fact, what I want to do is copy these to next week, first of all. Now, say we're on Monday the 21st, and Claire here called you up on Sunday. She said, oh, I'm not going to make it in for the rest of the week. Now, what we can do is just click on the little drop down next to her name, turn all shifts to open. Takes her out of them, turns them into open shifts at the top here now, and then you can publish just the updates and let people know that there's now Claire's shifts are now going spare. I just think that's a nice little quick win, that one. Right, I've got to be so fast here. Approved timesheets. Let's go to timesheets now. I'm down on the schedule page. If there's any questions that I haven't answered about that, I'll have to catch up with you guys afterwards, because I can see there's quite a few questions. I'll try and do a very quick fire in the next few minutes, but a couple of cool things I want to show you on the timesheet approval page is that you can create custom pay conditions. So you can actually pay people a different amount compared to what's actually their hourly rate or what they supposedly had done that day. So you might need to give them a bonus, or you might need to pay them a double time rate or something ad hoc, okay, and it wasn't pre-planned. So what you can do, say I've approved this one. In the unapproved pay section, so bearing in mind this is only going to be location managers and above that have the ability to do this, I can unapprove pay, and then you can see here I get a list to my base pay rate. So these are all the different pay rates that exist in my platform. Well, these are for the individual, and then other would be all of them in my whole account, all the different pay conditions. And so I can change this for this person so they get a different rate. And I'm going to tell you something in a minute about the support team who might be able to set something up for you so that you can create more bespoke ones. For example, something called a custom pay condition where you can indeed perhaps give someone a bonus payment, like a one-off payment, for example. So that's one. The other one on this page, don't worry, I know this is not the most thrilling of pages to talk about for too long. So the second one is, did you know on the timesheets export page, you can change the name of an export code for a pay type. Let's just find some timesheets here. If you group by pay rate, you can see here I've got the pay rate as it's titled in deputy, and its export code is automatically on this occasion given the same thing. The leave types will be slightly different, but the deputy name for this is weekday £11. But your payroll provider may have a unique name for it. The main example I can think of is Sage 50. They will have their own unique set of titles for pay rates. So you can actually change this here. Say this is called weekday £11, might just be called that in the payroll platform. So now when it comes to exporting these, if you choose the custom payroll exporter option from the drop down and then edit it and just make sure, if you type payroll export code and just make sure this, if you click the plus here and just add it to the list, make sure this is included in the column list. When you export and download this column and its correct title will show. This is going to be the shortest Excel sheet of all time here with one line of code on it. Oh, my mobile phone's in the way. If I can just stop doing that now. There we go. You can see here the payroll export code has changed. Handy. Okay, right. Last couple of mins. Now, the final bit I want to show you is business settings. So there's a couple of little bespoke things you can do in these tabs that might be really handy and actually might be really valuable and important for your business. What are the ones I want to show you? So there's a few different ones you can do here. This is an important one. You may have, and this happens quite often where some of our customers might publish shifts using the SMS option by mistake. It can happen, no doubt about it. And because, you know, it's 5 pence per SMS message, you don't want to get charged for that. So as long as you come into the business settings and switch this off, it doesn't matter how they publish. Even if they choose the SMS option, it won't send one, okay, so that you won't get that unexpected charge. Let's have a look at branding. So if you click on branding here, you can indeed put your own business logo at the top here. So it doesn't have to be this deputy logo all the time. You can make it a bespoke. So for example, you could choose a file here. You could choose a particular image of your choice. You know, perhaps just let's zoom in. Let's have the whole picture here. There we go. Just zoom in a little bit. There we go. That's lovely. Save that logo. Perhaps make it a more befitting colour or a nice bit of coral. There we go. Press apply, and then you've got your lovely business logo at the top left there. There we go. Lovely stuff. What else on the business settings? Let's have a quick look. There's one or two more I want to show you. So the branding, the switching off SMS notifications, custom terms. You may well have you want to make things more familiar to the terminology that you use in your business. So, you know, you absolutely can just call these whatever you want that makes sense. Break, this could be lunch, this could be, you know, staff member, whatever you want to add in here. And this is reflected then across the rest of the system. The last one on here is a really important one, the shift questions. Now, I'm not going to go through how to set this all up because this already exists in other training material that I've done. But you can indeed add shift questions. But here's one. So at the moment, you know, most of our customers are using them for things like, how are you feeling today? And, you know, are you experiencing any COVID symptoms, things like that? You know, really important questions that they want upon clock in and clock out. And you can choose when it appears for the employee. But you could also use this more creatively and maybe to run a poll, for example. So you absolutely could create a new custom field here and perhaps call it, you know, Xmas party ideas, whatever, not this year, but you could use this and then have different, we'll say this is a multi-list, and then we're going to have different options, you know, so it could be pub, it could be Zoom call, or whatever it might be. Have your list and then have this at the beginning of a shift, for example. You can make it mandatory if you want, you don't have to. And that way you can then report on the answers. So perhaps, you know, after a week, you can go to your reports tab. A shift questions report default exists. So click on that by all means, and then just edit it down if you only wanted to see. So we take off all shift questions, and then you can actually search for your shift question in here. Now I didn't save mine, so the party's not going to show up, but you can search for the name of your shift question there, and then you could, you know, just drag that over and add it as a field, and then you can filter by the date, for example, and just get a list of people's answers, and that way you can you know, run your own sort of internal poll. Pretty handy. Now we are at 2 minutes over, So I've never done this before. I thank you all for sticking around so much. I wondered if you could do me a little favour. It's just one little question I have for you. And it's a poll I'd like to run. Okay, so just very quickly, if you wouldn't mind answering what training topic you would like in 2021. So for January, it's going to be January the 28th, I think, at the moment. Would you like scheduling masterclass? So for me to go perhaps a bit more in depth into all that scheduling stuff I was talking about. Timesheets in depth in a similar way, or something a little bit left field. How about deputy customer in conversation? So where I get to chat about someone's industry experience and using deputy with their staff and their customers, their ideas and their creative ways of using it and the value that they're getting from it. So let me run that quickly now. And if you wouldn't mind, I would love to see your votes on that. And I'll just give you a few seconds. I don't know if you can see what I can see, but it's great because it's like a little horse race that I see live with the numbers going up and down like that. Well, it looks like time and attendance is coming through strong here. We've got about 70% of you have voted. So anyone else, please do click on your favourite one or the one that you'd just like to see next time. I dare say, you know, all of these things will get covered over time. But yeah, it looks like time and attendance in depth is good. Now, that is amazingly timely, and I feel like I've given you a crystal ball because the topic in January is going to be about the smartphone apps and the kiosks. So it's going to be all about how to make the best use of Deputy on the smartphone app, not just from a manager's perspective, but also what the employees can do, and how to set up and run the kiosk as well. So that will cover, of course, a lot of time and attendance stuff by its nature anyway. So that will be involved in that too. So that's great to see. Thank you. Let's just close that window down. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. There was actually a couple more things that I wanted to run through. I will just mention them now, and I'm going to send you the links to these things instead. Okay. We have an amazing customer support team here at Deputy. They can do a whole manner of extra helpful things for you and your account. For example, unavailability. If you need it blocked and you don't want your staff to even have the ability to do that, they can do it. You can absolutely make the question about adding a pay condition. Remember I showed you that on the timesheet approval page. Journal categories as well. By default, if you're adding a journal note to somebody, you're only going to see a positive or a negative option as a summary. So here, you know, if you add a journal note, you'll only have a positive or negative option. So if you want a whole host of extra ones here that have a lot more context and make sense, like superstar, running late, whatever it might be, the support team can add those to your account, okay? Custom stress profiles as well, they can add. We have stress profiles that are either 24/7, so you can just schedule someone endlessly with no warnings. We have fixed ones like 40 hours a week, 38 hours a week, 2 days a week, things like that. But if you want specific ones, please do contact the support chat team and they will be able to create custom ones for you. And there's a whole load of other things that I just don't have time for today. So I may well end up doing a part 2 to this webinar sometime in January before the official smartphone app and kiosk one. But we'll have to see. I need to take a sore throat tablet, I think, after this. Let me just see if I can very quickly answer anyone else's questions. John, have you got any really outstanding ones that that people are desperate to have answered that you can see before
No, in particular, there's a variety just covering different areas, so none that are repeating on the same theme.
Okay, like in different location and area. Mine's asking about the area. I mean, if people will work in different locations and areas. Yes, that's fine. I think if I'm understanding you correctly here, if you click on all locations and somebody has a split shift, it will show that they have multiple shifts on the employee view. I think that's the important thing, is to have employee view for that, so that you can see that that person, has starts and ends a shift in one location and area and has another one later that day in a different location and area. Yeah, that's fine. Just keep it on employee view and that will show it more clearly. Ali says hi. Hi, Ali. That's my favourite type of question. Harry says, what are some of the most effective ways to get staff consistently clocking in and out of their shifts? Oh, you could put it in as part of their contract, Harry. No, seriously though, you can absolutely switch on reminders and notifications if people haven't. On the locations tab, remember I showed some of these here. There's notifications about upcoming shift and reminders to clock in and out. And you can set an amount of time before and indeed after a shift, that if someone, so an amount of time before the shift to remind them that they have a shift. And then if they haven't clocked in, you can say how many minutes after after a scheduled start time should a message to be sent out to remind them that they haven't clocked in yet. So you can see here we've got late to clock in, late to clock off reminder notifications that you can send to just yourself again, or just the employee, or both, and also upcoming shift reminders as well. Here we go, last one here, upcoming shift. So you could say 24 hours before, or even 2 hours before, send a message to that person they have a shift. And the same with the late to clock on and off as well. Another thing you can do if people are forgetting is have some automation in rounding up the start and end times. Because I appreciate, in the first, say, month really, this is a learning curve for all the staff if they've not used something like this before. It takes time to embed, a new habit really, isn't it? So by all means use the notifications, and you can switch them off after the first couple of weeks if people are starting to go, yeah, I know, I'm doing it now regularly, I know what to do. But you have full control in the timesheets. You can set in the settings here things to get automatically rounded. You can even have things automatically clock in and out. So I would encourage you to come and have a look at some of the automation settings here for timesheets, auto rounding, and also auto clock in and out, should you want that. If you want them to physically do it, that's fine. Use the reminders. I think I've said the same thing 1,000 times. Someone says, how can you view the clock in and out for proof for a timesheet approval? Currently only showing example, only can see clock in picture on the kiosk, but couldn't see that a person clocked out on phone as forgot to log out. I couldn't see geolocation clock off. Yes, it will only show one image on that timesheet approval page, but the other images do exist. You just need to check in the timesheet history. If you click this timesheet history tab here, now my example doesn't show anything because it's not a real one, but both clock in and clock out methods are absolutely recorded, and if there's images involved, then yes, they will show here, and they are exportable as well. Something else I was going to show you guys is the deputy exporter, but that was actually I went into more detail in the previous webinar about that, but I will link to that. So that if there's any deep dive information that you need to get about any aspect of the platform that's happened, everything's recorded and is exportable. If not through the direct user interface, absolutely through the official deputy exporter. Okay, I think I'm going to have to, just for time, stop it there. I know there's a good sort of 16 questions here that I just for time I can't get to, but I absolutely will follow up with you guys individually. All of these get recorded, so I'll get back to you probably by Monday or Tuesday at the latest, if there's any that require a bit more context. But yeah, I'll have to say, if there's no burning ones that I can't answer right now, that's the end of the webinar. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around this long. It's a pleasure. Have a great Christmas for that brief window where we're all going to be on the roads for exactly the same time. So I'm planning to spend my Christmas in traffic. did about you guys. And after that, I hope you have a wonderful, prosperous 2021, and I look forward to seeing you in January. Take care, everyone. Thanks again.